On today's episode of the Glue Guys, breaking news, Brian. Joe Harris out 4 to 8 weeks because of a little bone particle that is floating around in his injured ankle. He's going to get surgery. We'll talk about that impacted, how the Nets may have a replacement available that's not currently on the roster. We'll discuss that. And overrated, underrated. We're going to look at the 8 biggest headlines sort of surrounding the team this year. And we're going to discuss whether it is in fact overrated or underrated. Welcome back to the Glue Guys. This is Mike here. Say hello, Brian. Check us out on Twitter at BKGlueGuys, Netsdaily.com, The Athletic. Get yourself behind that paywall at TheAthletic.com. I still think the Black Friday deal is active. I don't think it's going to last past this week.
Okay.
$1 a month for an entire year. $12.
Wow.
Ryan.
Wow.
That is a lunch sushi special. 2 rolls, a California with that crab stick.
Not even with
and
taxes.
a veggie roll.
Not even with taxes.
Not even with taxes.
Yeah.
So you're basically giving up that opportunity to eat imitation crab meat and a veggie roll to get all this amazing sports content. I'm telling you, Brian, get behind that paywall. Hashtag get behind that paywall.
I got back there. I'm behind. I'm in enemy territory. Mike,
Brian has stormed the gates. Wow, Bri. Thanksgiving, huh? What a great holiday. I am good. How do we feel about the Nets?
Sorry. I have a hot take for you about Thanksgiving.
Please.
What's up with people pitting like foods against each other for Thanksgiving? Can we just briefly talk about the expectation to have like a which thing is better and which thing is worse? And especially, the paradox of that being a thankful holiday, and we're just at war over is stuffing good, is mashed potatoes underrated, or
we're
gonna get to that.
Cranberry sauce with which to eat?
It's a war out there, Mike. And I'll tell you what, I am. Yeah. I'm both. I don't want to get dragged into those conversations anymore. If I can, I've decided that this was it. This is the last year that I'm gonna go to bat for any of my preferences. All right, that's it.
It's the podcastification of America. Everything is a debate.
That's right.
We have to debate everything. Can't we all just get along and enjoy what we enjoy?
Yeah.
Like, why do I have to argue with you about my food tastes, right?
Yeah.
If you enjoy...
Well, you have to because your food tastes are good awful.
I famously did not like spinach artichoke dip. And Brian, at the time, this is funny. One of the few things we remember about this show, we've been doing it for 8 years, 9 years now,
20,
which is
long
depressing.
Long time.
My take that spinach artichoke dip was terrible. Brian correctly assessed at that exact moment that I just haven't had good spinach artichoke dip.
Whoa.
And you were correct.
You reversed it?
I do love it now.
Oh, my God.
I love it now.
That never happens. At least, you know what I like about you, Mike? You have the courage to admit when you're wrong. That's
courageous, man.
That's what I like. Mike, there was some Nets basketball played not too long ago, although it feels like a long time ago.
It does feel like a long time. I mean, we last potted, I think, on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Was it Wednesday?
Did we get before the Celtics or after the Celtics?
We were before the Celtics game.
So a tale of two games here, Mike, that we have. Easy. It's so easy to forget. It feels like this happens every week. So easy to forget. The more of a Cuomo guy, actually. More of a Cuomo guy. Is that off color?
I don't think you can be a Cuomo guy at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think that's allowed,
That's the joke. That's the joke. The tale of two games, Mike, was we do this every week, and it seems like it always happens that the good game happened before the bad game, and then we had a really bad game against. So we beat up on the Celtics. It was joyous. Everyone just like steamrolled, and then we played maybe the worst half of basketball in the KD era. Against the Suns in yet another.
I don't know if I can confirm that, but
it feels that way. That's a feelings based argument, but I guess the Suns on Saturday and in a big Saturday night, everyone's fired up, and just yet again another.
I think it was the largest crowd in Barclays regular season history.
Yeah, there you go. Wait, how is it that changes?
That's...
I feel like you have a sellout. It's like a set. Like, isn't there a set number? Are they adding and subtracting seats?
There's adding and subtracting happening.
but like
They
of
slowly
actual
add a
seats.
seat.
They,
I think they put like a couple of seats in. It's a gimmick. I think it's a marketing
they just
gimmick
like
by
put
the
folding
team to make it
chairs like
show-
it's like in
Yeah.
certain. All right, I mean, I
just
like it.
anywhere.
I
The
thought there was
bathroom
a
stalls.
set number of seats, and you could either have them all or not. In a cell. Anyways, that's
Can
besides
I
the-
ask you a quick question? You know, typically during the playoffs, there'll be like standing room only seats, and you can get into the stadium for like $50 for big playoff games
Where are
for a
those
higher
seats?
price ticket. Like what was it? What's the Nissan Pavilion, the Toyota Center, or the Bacardi Bar?
Those are you can't just get a ticket for the Honda Club, because if I
Apologies to
because-
Honda.
please, but you can get
You
a
guys
ticket
make a
that
hell
has
of a CRV.
that has access to the Honda Club. That's the meme, right? Anyways,
Let's say the Nets are in the NBA Finals. Okay, they're playing the Los Angeles Lakers.
unlikely now for them.
Yeah,
Not
good,
for
good
us.
call. What is the price point on a ticket that would only get you into the bathroom? You have to. The seat is in the bathroom, and you have to stay in the bathroom. You
And
can't
watch on your phone, or what are we doing?
walk in the concourse. You can't go get food, but you are in the arena watching on your phone in the bathroom. Do you even pay $1 for that seat?
Do I pay $1 to sit in a public bathroom? No, I don't. What kind of a question is that?
Brett Yormark, get at me. I know you're not with the Nets anymore, but that's a marketing idea.
Is there a TV in there at least? I mean, are we at least.
Yeah, there's a TV in there.
Okay.
There is a TV in there.
That changes
but
everything.
it's you and 5 sweaty men in one stall, which is actually a good time.
Good.
Sounds like a great time for me.
Jeez.
Brooklyn Nets. Yes.
Brooklyn Nets.
So how do we rationalize this, right? The Suns game was bad. Celtics game was good. And I do want to talk about the Celtics game for a second
Okay.
because it was getting mighty chippy. The only thing I want to talk about, I know it was forever ago, it was getting mighty chippy, and LaMarcus Aldridge, Patty Mills, and Kevin Durant put their foot down. I really forget if James Harden was really a part of this, but they put their foot down and squashed the Celtics to such a degree that I really love. There's an aggression, a veteran savvy that I loved, and then they lose to the Suns. And we're all upset and sad. We're going to do overrated, underrated, a great segment that no one has ever done before.
Great. Huge.
One of the topics is the Nets cannot beat elite teams in the NBA. Should we just jump in? I mean, like, overrated, underrated. Do you feel like that's a thing? Do you feel like it's a real, actual thing? And why? Because I have an idea, and I think it's kind of clear why they can't beat the elite teams right now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a thing. I think we have to recognize that it is a real meme. Because here's the teams that they've lost to this season. I mean, it's so funny because everyone, flips out about the Nets and, oh, they can't beat the national media descends upon the Nets like no other because they have Kevin Durant, James Harden, and they don't have Kyrie Irving. The Nets' losses were against the Suns, Warriors, Bulls, Heat, Hornets, and Bucks. The Hornets are the worst team in that, and they're 13-9, and they're pretty frisky. They're a good team. The Nets' best wins were against the Atlanta Hawks while the Hawks were still struggling, the 76ers, which was in the second game of the year, and the Celtics. The Celtics in that recent blow-up, but the Celtics aren't, they're a tier 2 below where the Nets want to be and where the Nets are. Brian, overrated, underrated. The Nets can't beat elite teams. Is that overrated or underrated?
Man. Oh, wow. It's, you know what? I had
You got to be honest with yourself, Brian.
I think it's rated appropriately. Is that an option? I think it's
it is an option. Yes.
I mean, here's the state of my level of taking this serious. And you saw we talked about this on the pre-production meeting call. I spent yesterday actually looking at statistics, which is, something's terribly wrong in the universe if I'm spending any time, let alone Sunday afternoon time, deep diving in the NBA analytics stuff, looking for any kind of like jump off the page stats to fit into like why is the crustiness of this offense so obvious? Like what is wrong with this offense? Why is it like what's exactly what's happening? And there's a couple of data points, but the one that really popped off the page, the one that I started tweeting out about, was drives per game. There was a lively conversation on Twitter about it, whether this is a personnel based thing or whether this is about
Steve
coaching.
Nash's inability to coach the Nets.
Yeah, that's well put. And I think it's a little of both. If I had to actually put my 2 cents on it, but basically what I'm trying to think is like, okay, so we're having some serious trouble against good defenses. It appears to be that like anyone that's actually playing significantly decent defense, like it's not just good teams. These are good teams with like formidable defensives. They are scheming appropriately for Kevin Durant in a way that we're just somehow not accounting for. Like they basically face guarded Durant with Jay Crowder everywhere he went, and then as soon as he got the ball, he was doubled. I mean, this is it's not a crazy out of the box way of guarding Kevin Durant, but it was effective, and we didn't ever do anything about it. Again, this comes back to a whole bunch of other endemic problems, and we can go into all this other like, how do you what's the other solutions if James Harden is not being super James Harden dude? There's a whole lot there, but I guess one of the big things that I was like looking for in doing that deep dive was like, can we build a data set around like what is different from this year versus previous years? And it's really stark how much our driving game has changed over the last couple of years. We used to rank third, in the Atkinson years from 2016 to 2020, year in, year out, we were the third most drivingest team, almost, like a Swiss train right there, number 3, but for 1 year we were number 4. And then in the last 2 years with Nash, we were 23rd last year and 27th now this year. So we're regressing. We're falling further back. And that kind of, I think like when we're talking about modern basketball, and we often do on this show, the analytics guys will tell you that it's threes and shots at the rim. That's like the main effect of what you're trying to do offensively. And we're missing just the 50% of that component. We are full blown missing at this point. Now we can go into like Kyrie Irving playing touch football professionally now and how that's a big part of the problem and so on and so forth. But I just wanted to kind of demonstrate.
Everyone take a shot. Brian talked about touch football.
Every show.
Take your shot.
It's going to happen every show. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to put like what's one big data point that like jumps off the page, and that's it. So in terms of does that all that amount to like, are we actually worried about beating good teams going forward? I kind of am, honestly. I would like to see us beat one, just the one. I mean, Celtics don't scare me, and I've often talked on this show about how
Celtics don't.
They're not a really actually good team. They're kind of fugazi. Whereas the Suns and the Warriors, and to a lesser extent the Heat, are really good teams. And we just weren't competitive really against any of those teams, really at any point. I mean, maybe he used the Heat a little bit, but...
Yeah, and so I like when you try to dig down. I mean, I think a lot of this is like when you watch the games, there's just this weird sense that the Nets don't have enough firepower during the games. I mean, this is a real clear stat, and typically when people bring up points scored during a game, if you don't score a lot of points against good teams, you're going to lose against them. But the Nets have lost how many games this season? 6 games this year so far. In 4 of those losses, the Nets have scored fewer than 100 points, right? This goes to what you're saying, which is they're not scoring enough. If you look at Kevin Durant's, I mean, Basketball Reference, God bless them.
God bless.
The amount of data that you have here.
Oh.
And when you go game logs and you look at all the Nets losses, you look at just Kevin Durant's game logs. Here's what he's putting out in losses, okay? 38 points, 32 points, 19, which is as low in a loss, 38, 25, and then against the Suns, he had 39 points, 4 steals, 7 assists, and 9 rebounds. He's playing an elite level. Like, even if, we could say that we talked about how the Heat schemed him up pretty well. The Golden State Warriors did the best job by far against Kevin Durant. He was 6 for 19 from the field. That was his worst game of the year, I think, so far. But everyone else, he's still putting up his nums. It's that James Harden isn't what he was, and we'll get into overrated, underrated James Harden. And it's just that there's that Kyrie size hole that's missing where, like, even if LaMarcus Aldridge plays well or Patty Mills plays well, not having Joe Harris, not having Kyrie Irving is kind of a deal, right? And you're right. I want to see them, beat someone good. It would be nice to see,
or not just get BTFO'd by someone good. I mean, we're
that's
even
kind of the thing.
Yeah, we're getting clobbered.
So here's what's I'll just do a quick schedule thing. We usually do at the end, but they obviously play the Knicks Tuesday, which we'll talk about coming up. There's something delicious that's happening with the Knicks that I can't wait to discuss with you.
Did we
Kemba
talk about the Joe
Walker's
Harris
been
thing yet?
benched.
Did we do that on the shit?
Now we'll do Joe.
Yeah.
Let's do Joe Harris next. Okay,
Okay.
We'll do overrated, underrated that injury.
Okay.
But Timberwolves, and then they play the Bulls. Okay, and that it's a Bulls game at home on a Saturday on a back-to-back for the Nets. You know, and then after that they play like a bunch of like not that good teams. So we're not going to get like a compelling game coming up for the Nets in a while. So they still have a lot of time to sort of figure this out. Let's do overrated, underrated Joe Harris's injury. So the injury, it's his ankle injury. He's going to get surgery on it. The good news, I guess, is that Steve Nash says once he gets the surgery and cleans up that part of his ankle, he should be good to go once he rehabs and he's ready to roll. The timeline that Mark Bartelstein, Joe Harris's agent, told Adrian Wojnarowski is that it's 4 to 8 weeks. Now, 4 weeks could fly by, right? And we could feel, oh, 4 weeks, we won't really notice it as much. You and I haven't discussed much the fact that Joe Harris hasn't been playing with the team for a couple of weeks now.
Right.
Are we underrating the lack of Joe Harris? I'm going to say yes, just from my perspective. I think I'm not giving enough credit because ultimately this is who Joe Harris is. He's a top 3 3-point shooter in the NBA on pretty high volume, is a reliable player out there on the floor for the most part, and he sucks up 31 minutes a game playing a guard wing position on the team. And by him not being out there, you don't get the super fun Harden, Joe Harris, Patty Mills, KD, LaMarcus Aldridge lineup that we could be having, like the ultimate devastating shooting offensive force lineup. So we don't have that. Are we underrating or are we overrating? I don't think we can overrate his injury, but are we underrating?
Overrating the negative effects of it? You know, we're in an interesting spot, I think, because, you know, per what we were just talking about, we're not having difficulty beating average to below average teams. We're just, you know, we look good against them. So I think everything, if you look at it from that perspective, pretty much all we need from a, you know, proof of concept perspective is like, when we have all of our guys, can we beat good teams? And again, I'm putting an asterisk by all of our guys because, again, touch football is alive and well in Paramus. But I am not. I know what Joe Harris is. He's a known quantity. Like you know, that he gets injured is, you know, that's what happens in life and in basketball. So I'm not overly concerned about it. Like if he comes back, whatever. I will say I think there's an opportunity to yet again like increase the reps for our rotation guys. Having Bembry and Patty Mills in the starting lineup since Harris has been out a little bit, I've been enjoying my Bem VP. Shout out to the Discord for coining Bem VP minutes. That by the way, in the invites in the Twitter bio and the YouTube description below. Bembry as a replacement for both him and kind of Bruce Brown de facto has been awesome, and it's been super fun to watch him grow. I'm like, even now I'm questioning like what the ceiling for DeAndre apostrophe Bembry could be, because do you see how the apostrophe is at the end of
I mean, his nickname should be the apostrophe.
The apostrophe.
I mean, where it's placed is beautiful. Great job on you, Mama and Dad at Bembry.
DeAndre's Bembry. But yeah, go ahead.
This feels like you started off the pod by talking about why we have to pit Thanksgiving foods against each other.
Yeah, now I'm pitting the players against each other. That's what.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to do that here by saying, "Holy shit! Is Bembry just taking Bruce Brown's lunch? Is Bembry becoming a little bit more of a versatile offensive? I mean, he's actually much more versatile offensive force than Bruce Brown. He's a better rebounder than Bruce Brown. He's not as rugged, and he isn't." You know, last year, let's not forget that Bruce Brown was the best center in the NBA for a stretch, for a period of the season.
It's a difference. I love the comparison, but it's also super different. Like Bruce Brown is a knuckleball.
So different.
He's a Eufus pitch that the world has never seen before. Whereas Bembry is
what?
You know the Eufus pitch? Isn't that what
Is that like the weirdly slow pitch in
it's
baseball?
like a giant, it's like a really high arcing. They throw it in like the Japanese leagues a lot.
Yeah,
You've seen
yeah.
this?
I'm just blown away that you pulled out a
Eufus.
Eufus pitch.
Come on,
Euphemism.
I hang out on the internet, so I know a few things. But they and whereas Bembry is like, becoming sort of just like a standard versatile, more than just a 3-and-D. The kind of people, the guy we used to talk about, well, now that he can shoot threes, he's, wasn't even a 3-and-D guy. He was like kind of compared to Bruce Brown because he was another weird wing that couldn't shoot threes. But now he's locked in. Or is he? He's probably fallen off. Actually, I haven't checked in a while.
No, he's shooting 41% from three. Now he's taking one attempt a game from the floor, but he's shooting 41%. That three is always he's only taking an open three. Like, he's never done like pull up threes. He's not Javon Carter. He's shooting 60% from two. His effective field goal percentage is 60%. I mean, most of his shots come from two. He had that one game, was it against the Celtics, where he had 7 rebounds in the first quarter. I'm like obviously super pumped about Bembry. And I want Bruce Brown at full health too. But Bembry offers the thing that I think this team almost needed more than anything, besides like a really strong center, like a Jonas Valanciunas type, just pulling a name off the ether, out of the ether. Because they didn't have really a wing athletic defender who was versatile and could switch on to a whole bunch of guys. Like Jeff Green was that, but Bembry's a quicker, smaller version of Jeff Green. Like Bembry just has this odd level of like Sean Marion athleticism. He's just not like where Jeff Green could play center and go to power forward. Bembry's oscillating more between like shooting guard, small forward, and maybe a little small ball four, maybe a little bit depending on the lineup. He's been awesome, and his contribution to the team has been fantastic. I mean, at some point we're gonna talk about Blake Griffin. I don't know if you saw the quote today. Blake had a media availability today. This is so sad, and I feel bad even saying this. He said he reached out to DeAndre Jordan to ask how to handle getting benched on the Nets. Like he literally
DeAndre's like, well, I've written the book on this, so let me
pull up a chair, Blake. I will let you know what it's like to be benched by the Nets.
It is hilarious.
Like he is the expert in that. Like he is the guy that they go to. Like CNBC has a guy that they go to for whenever there's like a media rights deal.
Mm-hmm.
He's that guy. He's like DeAndre Jordan is the expert on getting benched by the Nets. But he's getting benched by the Nets, and Bembry is like this new class of role player. Him, LaMarcus Aldridge, Patty Mills have replaced, the old guard of role players.
That's a funny person to pick too, because I wouldn't have selected DeAndre Jordan as having handled benching particularly well. Or maybe he did. I don't know.
I guess last year he did, the Kenny Atkinson year.
No.
So was DeAndre's advice like, you should get Nash fired?
He's like, start some shit, dude. Get
talk to Shams Charania.
He just hands him a copy of Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Let's do this.
Come here. Come here. Come to the dark side. You could be more powerful. So I talking about role players. LaMarcus Aldridge, overrated, underrated, or are we properly rating?
Yeah, I mean, he's properly rated as GOAT. I mean, what's, how can we...
He's the greatest ever.
I mean, he's appropriately rated, GOATed.
Just for some numbers, I love per 36, by the way, it's a joke. I actually, per 36 is literally a joke. But LaMarcus is the Nets' third leading scorer, 14 points per game in 22 minutes. So his per 36 is 23 and 10. 10 rebounds being the 10.
That checks out.
And that feels so correct. I honestly think, if we're going to go, who has saved the Nets season so far? The Nets are in first place in the East. So, this isn't a dire situation. But without LaMarcus Aldridge, if they'd gone to the year, there was a very real scenario where LaMarcus still had a heart condition that was too worrying and that he would not be on this team. If he wasn't, and the Nets had to rely upon, Blake and Paul Millsap, I think this seems like 500, honestly. Without LaMarcus has been so crucial because in the games that they've won, he's been the guy supplying that sort of like third punch behind KD and Harden. Now, Patty Mills is definitely like Patty Mills is fantastic. Overrated, underrated. Brian Patty Mills is a signing. I think kind of underrated. I mean, I don't know.
Can't possibly be overrated. I mean, it's the
I
best.
can't imagine. I did not imagine he'd be this good on this team. Like I thought that he would be important. I thought that like in playoff time he would hit some big shots, but I kind of had not thought that he would be any good in the regular season like to this level. And he's right now he's the best 3-point shooter in the NBA. He's shooting 50% from three, and he's incredible. And he's fiery and good vibes all around.
Yeah.
But him and LaMarcus have really saved those two. I mean, LaMarcus still technically, I guess, was a free agent signing. Those two guys have saved this team because without them, and if they had just gone the season relying on Blake, Joe Harris, Nick Claxton, Bruce Brown, they wouldn't. This would be a disastrous season, and they've been incredible.
Yeah.
So far this year.
I'm just thinking about the Javon Carter minutes still, and I'm going back to my fixation on drives per game, and I'm wondering if like the only reason that he's getting reps and now why, and I kind of talked about this in the Twitter thread, like why Cam Thomas has suddenly cracked the rotation is because our dribble penetration is so whack right now that it's like, okay, can anybody just take their man off the dribble and get something going offensively into the heart of the defense? There's some people talking, and we talked about this, I think, a little bit in previous episodes. Might be Sean Goodfriend, a good friend of the pod, who, by the way, has stopped emailing us, and I think he's just out of sheer animosity towards you.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Has lofted out John Wall was seen like in one of those fancy like practice facilities
New York
in
City
Manhattan.
gyms.
Yeah. Is he a buyout candidate, Mike? There's talk of him giving back to the Rockets rotation. There's all kinds of little bits and blurbs out there. What have you picked up? Because I know you have an inside track on John Wall.
Yeah, so it seems like, I mean, the whole reason why he's on the Rockets still is that he doesn't want to give any money back. I mean, he has 2 years counting this year at $92 million on his contract. Like, yeah, I guess if he said, I'll give back $10 million, but for the Rockets, I don't know what's their incentive to, I guess, save $10 million. Maybe there is some. I mean, it's a lot of money, particularly for...
What about a Kyrie trade straight up?
Okay, so Brian and I have an episode coming up, the Kyrie Conundrum. And I've already built my list. Brian, if you go in our Google Docs, you can kind of see it. Okay. So what I did, we've done this before. This is our long-running, award-winning series. It started with the Levert line, and then what is the Dinwiddie dilemma?
Yeah.
The Kyrie Conundrum, looking at all the guys. You go on HoopsHype, player salaries. You figure out who the Nets could trade for with Kyrie's salary and maybe with some interest. You have to have perspective, right? Because you wouldn't trade Kyrie Irving for LeBron James.
No.
But maybe you would. I don't know.
Maybe
if you're the Lakers, maybe you would. John Wall is 2 years, $92 million. He actually makes more money than Kyrie. So the Nets would have to send more salary out. They would have to find more salary on their team to send to the Houston Rockets. So, like, it's just not happening. I do think it's an interesting name, though, because we know that John Wall, it was like 2 off seasons ago, was practicing with Kevin Durant and Kyrie and James Harden and Blake Griffin, like, all together in that gym. Remember when, like, the only video we were getting of Kevin Durant during his comeback was him at this, like, high-level gym on the West Coast? Mm-hmm. John Wall was a part of those games.
The other question is John Wall
worth anything?
Cooked.
Yeah. I think he's cooked, particularly in the sense of, like, if you put him next to James Harden. Like,
it's a real cook-off. Like,
that's a barbecue. That's a barbecue corner. Yeah. That's an old-fashioned firehouse barbecue. Yeah. So, and it's kind of a sad state of affairs that we're trying to talk ourselves into John Wall to get rid of Kyrie Irving. Like, that's how bad it is with Kyrie Irving. Let's do this, Brian.
Oh,
let's take a break. Coming back, overrated, underrated. Kyrie's on the court impact. Kyrie's off the court impact. In James Harden's play so far this year, yes, Brian.
Mike, this is part of the ads. I'm doing an ad. This is an ad. I have an ad. ScaryKittles.com went live. I'm wearing this shirt.
Oh, yeah. So give people what, because not everyone knows what Scary Kittles is.
Some Nets fans and a Clippers fan who are artist and t-shirt designer guys approached me, wanted to do some stuff. We got together. We're making some t-shirts. It's e-commerce. You've heard of it, Mike, I'm sure. DTC. That's direct to consumer. I believe down to cook. It is red pilled and woke, all at the same time. But yeah, I'm wearing.
Brian is wearing
shirt.
this is actually a shirt that like many people have thirsted after on the internet. It's the Thick Boy shirt with Zion Williamson, Stan Van Gundy, and who's the last person?
And there's Barkley here.
And Charles Barkley looking real thick.
Those are almost sold out, Mike. We had a good little first couple days. So and then there's going to be a Wizards, a DC based basketball shirt coming out, Mike. That's going to be in the mail for you very soon. You lucky dog.
I can't wait. I'm going to wear it every day.
Yeah, scarykittles.com. It's fun stuff.
Coming back, we're going to talk Kyrie on off-court impact, overrated, underrated, and James Harden. Coming right back. And we're back, Brian. Overrated, underrated. Kyrie's impact on the court for the Nets. Have we overrated the fact that he's not playing or underrated the fact that he's not playing?
Oh man, I really got to tell you, I think it's underrated if not rated appropriately.
Correct answer.
He's
good at
it's
basketball.
Weird to think how useful he was. And actually, like we talked about, or people had talked about in the media, idiots, coastal media elites, knuckleheads,
sure,
that there was like too much overlap between the three star players or whatever.
There's only one ball, Brian.
And you really find out
there's only one ball.
When you get into the nitty gritty, it's a real rock paper scissors. They're fundamentally different players, especially offensively. Which doesn't seem like it would be, but like, you know, what Kyrie does is we're missing it so badly. And again, I'll keep talking about it, but it's dribble penetration. It's a huge problem for us. And it's a real reason why we can't like break down these better defenses is because we just don't have any individual, like, you know, point guard threat who can take their first man off the dribble and get into the guts of the defense and start having it contract on them. So, we are in a tough spot without this dude, man. It's like a real problem. And Harden is missing that first step for whatever reason for now, and he can't get past speedier guards or wings. And so we're stuck in waiting for Patty Mills to careen off of 3 off-ball screens to maybe hopefully break something loose. It's not a good situation. Or, you know, James Harden and like Bembry has a 2-man game, or just KD does KD things, which is fine. And that's that's great because it's the best player to do that with, but it's enough to be number 1 in the East and beat up on these bad teams. But we're hitting up a roadblock, Mike. We're hitting up against that ceiling of how effective that offense can be.
Yeah, and you know, I've been working with my sports take therapist a lot lately, right? And Dr. Stephen A. has told me, actually he would never do this, but I'll speak for my heart here. When it was determined that Kyrie Irving would not play with this basketball team by Joe Tsai and Sean Marks, I was in support of it. And I said, the Nets are still the title favorites without Kyrie Irving. I don't think they are.
Whoa.
And I vastly underrated a guy who was not going to play for them, who was averaging 35-5 last year on insane efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's arrogance on my part.
Yeah.
That I thought, the Nets will be fine. They're still good. They're still the number 1 team in the East. I don't want to sound alarms. Don't sound alarms, Brian. But at this point, I think we can just know that their ceiling is drastically lower without Kyrie Irving on the team. I hope that he gets vaccinated. And I hope he starts playing basketball because, as you say, he's so goddamn good at the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And if he is operating,
I'm the only one saying it. I'm the only guy that's been talking.
Your analysis, I agree with it. Also, if he's playing better, that allows Harden to play a little bit differently too, and it helps where it puts Harden more in that bench unit, pick and roll whenever Nick Claxton comes back. I mean, we've talked about the offense many times and how different it is, and you have your great statistics about the fact that this team just isn't driving to the hole as much anymore. Part of that is because they aren't playing as much pick and roll as I think Harden would normally be playing, and that would affect and that would help his drive at the basket. Kyrie is the type of guy who can play in any offense. So can Harden, but Kyrie he does his thing, and he's so damn effective in it. Underrated his on the court impact, but I will say, for his off the court impact, so like the salacious headlines and all that stuff, I think it's overrated. Kyrie's off the court impact. I mean it as like, I thought this would be a brewing controversy all year. Leaks would be coming out of the Nets locker room about how Kyrie should get vaccinated or this or that, or players are angry about him. It hasn't. I mean, like, surprisingly, there's been nothing that has come out of the Nets about how unhappy they are that Kyrie isn't vaccinated. This team has basically only sent support his way and gentle encouragement to get vaccinated. But beyond that, like, Kevin Durant and James Harden haven't seemed to grouse about it as much as I thought they would.
Yeah, it's not really players like the player mafia. I don't, I think they're above the fray in that kind of way. I think it'd be seen as poor form, I think, to weigh in one way or the other.
Oh, you think?
You don't think so?
I think you're wrong.
Really?
Yeah, they're all humans, and we're all like, they're competitive people. And James Harden particularly views this as a great chance to win a championship, and Kyrie kind of is
publicly grouse about it. I don't know. That seems way
not publicly, but sourcily grouse about it. Be the source inside the Nets locker room say that they are upset with Kyrie for not getting vaccinated. Like, I'm surprised there hasn't been that story of like inside the Nets locker room turmoil over Kyrie. Like, there are so many reporters who are dying to write that story, but we just haven't seen it. It hasn't happened. And I compare this all the time, in 76ers land, those stories come out once a week. Once a week, those stories come out.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't happened here.
Well, they have real animosity there.
Yeah, they hate each other.
They hate each other. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like that's off brand for, I feel like KD's thing is like, don't care about other people, like stay in your lane. And Harden is just, it's very, very much in Harden land.
Just yells at people on defense and drinks his smoothies. That's what he does. That's all he cares about in life.
Did we talk about this? That I have the theory that he likes smoothies because drinking food through a straw prevents getting food in your beard. Do you think that there's something to it?
I think there's great validity to that. Think about how awful an avocado toast must be if you have a beard like that.
It's off the menu. I mean, anything open face is off the menu.
Speaking of James Harden.
Yeah.
James Harden has been the source of much conversation this year. James Harden's play this year so far, overrated, properly rated, underrated.
His play or the concerns about his play? The concerns about his play. Let's do that. I feel like that's...
Yes, do that.
I think that they're just slightly, like just one over into overrated territory.
That's where I'm at too, yeah.
Like they're just a little overrated. There's truth there. It's been weird. The eye test has been hinky. But at the same time, there's been like huge games and games where he looked great and games where he shot 20 free throws at the free throw line and where you do it, that's where the free throws happen. Like, so there's some evidence to suggest that like, it feels like a weird thing to like portal in and out of, like the ability to have a one-off, like 38-point triple-double or whatever. And then when you're playing against the Suns, have like the most horrific game of your life. Like if you can do it one, like you should, it's either one or the other. You should be consistently doing one or the other. That you can have those big games. It seems indicative to me that it's still there to a certain extent. Why it's not there on a nightly basis, that's very strange. It's very interesting. But if he was just like having a complete like all the way down in every category season and never having a good game, I would of course be super concerned. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
So I'm slightly overrated as well. His overall stat line, 29-8 on 41% from the field, 36% from three, 90% for the free throw line. His free throw attempts actually are like one attempt off per last season. So as much as there's been discussion about the rule change, it's not like a drastic change overall from his trend line.
Yeah.
But his trend line's pointing down. Here's some scary statistics for you, Brian. And we've talked about this before, but 18% of Harden's field goal attempts are coming from between 0 to 3 feet from the hoop, which is by far the lowest of his career. Like, Harden is the perfect embodiment of Morey ball, where it's only been layups, free throws, and three-pointers, and he's very quickly just been shifting away from getting any layups at all. 18%, by far the lowest of his career.
So that's percent is attempts?
A percent of his attempts. So one of 5 of his attempts
Got it.
overall from the field are basically layups, which is a drastic change from his career. He used to be up around like 30%, which is a pretty big difference. He hits 58% of those shots, which is the second lowest of his career. But 58% is not like dramatically lower than where he's been at his high. It's still the second lowest of his career. His free throw rate, which is the percentage of free throw attempts he gets off of his field goal attempts, like the amount of times he gets fouled every time he shoots the ball, is the 4th lowest of his career. He's had 1 dunk all year, according to Basketball Reference. He's never been a dunker, but that goes along with him not getting near the hoop. He's not dunking from 12 feet out. I don't know if people know that. And his true shooting percentage is the second lowest of his career.
But these in the lowest of these, like what was the down year that he had? Is there like a specific?
Well, so like when he was like a rookie.
Okay, so like all the way back then, it wasn't like because I was looking at through his again. I was just zeroed in on these drives per game stats, and his drives per game aren't way off from his lowest years, even with like Houston. So I'm interested in the shots at 3 feet and in. And I'm wondering if his drives aren't getting as deep as that seems like to be maybe the case.
Yeah, like because if you had a picture, like when you picture James Harden this year, it is 3-point shots, and it is more of like kind of like a mid-rangey James Harden drive, right? Like he kind of pulls up from like just outside 3 feet. He kind of pulls up around the 4 to 8 feet range,
right,
and tries to put something in. He's not getting to the hole and getting under the basket and putting up a layup. His true shooting percentage is off, second lowest of his career, but he's average, but he's basically like close to his career average. So that's not that drastic, but just he's chipping away at being efficient and getting to the bucket. He isn't that anymore, and he hasn't been hitting his 3-point shot that well. So it's like a cause for concern, but overall he's 29-8. He's not superstar James Harden right now. And whether that's the hamstring or whether that's just age and kind of declining play, it's so tough to figure out. It's an important factor because if you just do not get Kyrie Irving back, then you're really left with superstar KD, all-star level Harden, but like not not an all-NBA Harden. He was all-NBA Harden. Now he's not that anymore. He's all-star Harden.
I watched a couple of YouTube videos going down this rabbit hole just for a couple and it was one of the I'm not going to be able to remember the name of the channel, but I think it was called Heat Check. Could be shout out to Heat Check potentially. Did when he kind of compared it to a year, I think it was the 2017 potentially 2016-2017 season where Chris Paul injured his hamstring early on in the season. They were like off to a really bad start, and that was the other like sort of notable time where his conditioning started to first appear. They were like, hey, he's out of shape, and basically there was like a whole news cycle about how he spent like 6 weeks like hyper training, getting himself back into shape, and basically like having one of the best seasons of his career. So like I only say that not to say this is 5 years ago and your body is totally different now or whatever, but it was interesting because like there's been a specter of slow starts with James Harden, and also obviously conditioning stuff for a while. So it's not that I'm just glad to see a little bit that this is just not like a one-off, that this has kind of been a thing that's gone on a little bit in the past.
Yeah, so it's kind of important for him to play better. But again, the Nets are first in the East, so let's not going crazy. Come on. Last basketball overrated, underrated, properly rated. This goes back, Brian. Joe Size's decision not to pay Spencer Dinwiddie. I just want to remind people before we say the answer, it would have been about like $70 million a year to pay Spencer Dinwiddie with his salary plus luxury tax, something insane like that. Okay. But I will say, It is underrated.
Dude. Not in the not my money department. Like this would be the perfect player for this team right now, Spencer.
He is exactly what this team need. Again, when they made the decision not to pay Spencer Dinwiddie, they thought they would have Kyrie Irving. Yeah. One, we didn't know exactly what the vaccine requirement would be, but Kyrie was saying to the Nets, we believe he was saying, because that's what's been reported, that he would get vaccinated so there'd be no issue. So the team knows this. They have this in their back pocket. They believe they're going to have Kyrie Irving this year. If you have Kyrie Irving, you don't really need to pay Spencer Dinwiddie. I understand that, but this is just sort of like a karma of being an owner. Anytime an owner makes a decision that is financial over what happens on the floor, it comes back to bite them.
It's just
right.
Just
We're
pure
like,
karma. Just pure spiritual.
And I understand $70 million for Spencer Dinwiddie a year with salary and luxury tax is an insane cost on a team that is already so expensive. It just has to be said, because this is why we do the pod. We do it for the fans and not for the fat cats.
Do it for Mike.
The owner's
Put
box.
it out there. Say it to him.
If they had Spencer Dinwiddie, this team would be undefeated, and they would go 82-0, and they'd win a championship.
It is massively triggering to see the headlines, and there was a whole spat of them a couple weeks ago. Just be like, wow. You know what's the most incredible thing about Spencer Dinwiddie? He's like so versatile. He's whatever you need him to be on a night. It's like, yeah, I know. That's what I liked about him. He was great. I miss him to death. So great.
Quick non-basketball overrated, underrated. Black Friday overrated.
I mean, how can you possibly? It's the most like rated thing, like almost to this point where like it has to be underrated at this point. Like Black Friday might be underrated.
It's so massively overrated because those deals are around for weeks ahead of time, and they will be here for weeks to come.
Okay.
The day, I remember as a young boy when when I was a kid, Black Friday was a Friday.
Yeah, you took off school. Or you probably
did
didn't
you
have school
after Thanksgiving.
I went to a really serious school. It was like, really.
Did you have school during Thanksgiving?
We had school during Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah.
I went to a Circuit City at 6 o'clock in the morning with my dad.
Good God.
I don't know what I would have been getting.
Good Lord.
Could have been nothing in my life that I would have wanted that badly.
You know what?
But it was a day. Now it's a month. I'll give you
a draw this comparison. Would you rather sit in a bathroom stall during a Nets playoff game for $1?
NBA Finals, Brian, not a playoff, a finals game.
Or sit on the line at a Circuit City during a Nets final?
Much rather be in the bathroom, 100%.
You like
Circuit City was one of the worst places in America. For many, and it was a rough crowd that day too. It was that early morning Black Friday crowd before Amazon when you had to go to a store to buy stuff. Mm-hmm. It was no jokers there. No, okay,
I believe it.
No casuals, as the kids say. That was some hardcore shit. Mm-hmm. Black Friday, Brian. Last thing before we go, let's lift up the spirits. I feel like the show we're so serious, so let's
so serious.
Let's lift up the spirits.
So serious.
Kemba Walker's career is over. No. If you haven't been following this, it's been actually it was an interesting 30 minutes on Twitter where Tom Thibodeau had a press availability where he names Alec Burks the starting point guard for the Knicks, and literally says that Kemba Walker is out of the rotation. And then after that, we get Steve Nash's press conference where Joe Harris, is done for 4 to 8 weeks. I just want to say this, okay? Kemba Walker seems like a delightful man. Okay, everyone loves him, right? Everyone
can't
talks.
Speak to any of that. I don't know. Can't speak to it.
The Knicks media machine being kicked into overdrive the second they signed Kemba Walker is stunning. Now, I liked the signing because it was like there's no real cost to it and all that stuff. But all of these Kemba homecoming pieces that were launched, the thousands of the Bay of Pigs level, the amount of warships that were launched for Kemba Walker, the fact that he's from the Bronx and he's a high school basketball alleged legend. He was coming home to the Knicks.
Reading those Deadspins had you were like the Grinch watching the Who's in Whoville. You were pissed.
And now to see that we're here in November, not even December yet, but November, and he's out of the rotation
publicly, not even just quietly stacking DOP, like an announcement. We're not playing him anymore. It's brutal.
which is like,
When does that ever happen?
I guess, like, I was thinking about this. Technically, Blake is out of the rotation, and that is a discussion.
We didn't have to like signal boost it.
Yeah,
what's the point of that?
This was like press conference. Alec Burks is starting at point guard. Kemba Walker, New York City legend, is gone.
Yeah.
He's been banished to play for the Westchester Knicks.
Yeah,
something like that. Not really, but
so suck on that, Kemba.
So this leads us into Knicks Nets.
I'm
Brian,
fired up. I'm excited.
Is a loss terrifying? That's how I operate. I operate out of fear. Fear is not the mind killer to me. It feeds my mind.
Now that the narrative has been set as like the Nets' only main concern is like the top, super tippy top elite teams, everything else is gravy. Like we already have the other narrative of like beating up on average to below average teams. Like that's how this stuff works, Mike. It's the media, the medium is the message, or what is it? Massage. No. The massage is the message. Something like that. But I'm not concerned about it win, loss, or tie, because I know in my heart that the Knicks are not a real team to be feared.
Alec Burks starting point guard.
So, well, when you put it like that does
can't believe he's the starting point guard for the team. Yeah, and yes, the it would be. I guess even if they lost, I wouldn't be that concerned because they've been playing so. I mean, the Nets have been playing pretty well. Let's not poo-poo the way that they've been performing of late. They've been playing well. They could lose to the Knicks, and then they play the Timberwolves. The Bulls game is actually the big game on Saturday. I don't know. I'm interested to see the level of intensity because that's one of the things that I have seen in the elite games where it just doesn't feel like the Nets really – the full team rises to the moment. Like you'll have Kevin Durant playing great. You'll have Patty Mills being fiery. But like Harden kind of operates on the same level no matter what. And I just want a little bit more acuity. You know what I mean? A little more acuity. A
little dexterity. I'm just thinking of like RPG, like, status buffs or whatever. Yeah. Mike, get us out of here for crying out loud.
5 stars on Apple Podcasts. We need them. We want to have them. Thank you, everyone who's been doing that. It's just so delightful to see that, people do take the time to write out just a short. It takes only like 30 seconds at the most. We have 331 ratings right now, 4.8 stars.
What is it? A naked handstand at 500?
So thank you all. Yeah, naked handstand on the Brooklyn Bridge.
On the bridge.
On a 0-degree day. We will do it. So appreciate everyone. Honestly, if you're looking for a gift this holiday season, I really do suggest getting someone. You could give someone $12 and get them an Athletic subscription or prescription. You could get a prescription to the Athletic as well. Brian,
Michael, thank you. Thanks again. Once again. Bye-bye.
Bye.